Let's go into the talk. This is going to be about the mobile. Can everyone hear me properly? The back. It's about the mobile platform team, and our duty is to make the engineers more productive. And I'm going to explain what we are doing, examples of initiatives that we've taken during the last year. If you like mobile, probably you were watching yesterday the Google I/O. So let's do a long summary about it, or Gemini and AI. That's the long summary. I think there is nothing more than that. If you got tired about these topics, don't worry. We are not going to talk about that, because if you have a hammer, everything is a nail. Can you believe that they are using AI just to count words in a script? I mean, it's like. It's true that AI can help you boosting productivity, but we are going to focus on different things today, okay? Just to settle clear expectations. First, just a brief commercial about Glovo. I hope all of you know what is Glovo. Have you ever ordered through Glovo? But I hope I'm going to share at least 3 things that you maybe don't know. So the mission of Glovo is delivering everything. So have you ordered anything that is not food from a restaurant? Have you done your groceries or from Fnac, buy some headphones or flowers, some books in Sant Jordi? So Glovo is doing also these things. We are delivering absolutely anything in the cities. Also, maybe you think that we are only in Barcelona and in a few other cities. The truth is that we are in many different parts in the world, like Central Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa. This is not just publicity. This is important for what I'm going to tell later, because we need to support applications in really different regions with different requirements and different necessities. So we need to optimize for those. And last but not least, the engineering team in Glovo is around 400 to 500 engineers in more than 60 teams and 50 clusters. So we are not as small as when I started probably 6 years ago. Now, into the mobile platform team. First, maybe you are not aware, maybe if you are here, you already know, but there are 2 different roles. Usually, the tech departments in the organizations can be divided in many different ways, but one that might be a classical one could be product and platform. Product are usually the teams that are focusing in the clients. They are touching screens, they are adding the buttons, creating the features that actually the public is using for your application. And usually stakeholders are the business using, other business users in the organization. Platform teams are different. They are usually not touching things that are directly used by the customers. Things like in the infra teams, security teams, DevOps. These kind of things are more what are the platform, and usually our stakeholders are the other engineers in the organization, not outside. What happened with the platform team is that usually, that's kind of the point of this talk, usually when people think about platform teams, they think more backend oriented. Usually most of the people that is in the backend team has more a backend background. And when you think about this, they're supporting backend, but what I'm going to present today is what things can you do in a platform team that are for mobile and for web. Even if my background is mobile and most of the examples are going to be about mobile, you can apply the same kind of things into a front-end, another front-end oriented team. So our mission is to enable mobile technology to evolve and scale as the company grows with good developer experience. And this is not just this is not just buzzwords or whatever. I'm going to be defining every of these words to explain what we mean by this. First, mobile. You all know what a smartphone is. They are with us for a long time. But in the context of Glovo, there are 2 different applications. One for the customers, for doing the order, another one for couriers. These 2 applications are delivered for Android and for iOS. And this is our stakeholders. So the engineers that are working in these 4 applications are the ones that we try to make their lives easier. And in the context of Glovo, these are like 70 mobile engineers that are scattered around 20 different teams. And all of these teams have different roadmap, different features, different scopes, different ownership. Sometimes they don't even talk between each other. And they're working fast. All the engineers are working and doing many things. For example, I don't know, this is a screenshot of the, any month you can see like hundreds of thousands of lines changed or thousands of files changed across the main repos of mobile. Company growth. This can be explained in 2 dimensions. One is like the public side. So we go into more countries, we get new customers, we develop new features, we try to be profitable and getting more orders and more orders. And the other side of growing is internal. So we have new teams, we have new engineers, and they all need to go together. Now, scale is related to growth, but they are not the same. Scale is growing in an efficient manner. So you keep adding all of these countries, you keep adding all of this order and this profit, and you do it in an efficient way. And what is an efficient way in the context of mobile development? So first, that you solve all the development issues that usually happen when you have many people working together, like bottlenecks between teams, feedback loops goes super long because the building goes slow, and also production issues. Because at the end, what we want to do is to ship more and faster without compromising the quality of the product. And you would like to prevent things to not even happen. And if they happen, because I mean, in this business, incidents are going to happen, try to detect them soon or mitigate them soon, or also performance. And this kind of brings us to developer experience. I'm pretty sure that if I ask everyone in this room, or any one of you is going to have a different definition of developer experience. So I'm not going to give you mine. I'm going to give you the one from Nicole Forsgren. Do you know who is Nicole? Maybe you don't know her name, but you read many things from her. You know Dora, the Dora metrics. You probably know a space framework, which is like making better, taking into consideration more dimensions about productivity beyond the Dora metrics. You maybe know the Accelerate, the book about how companies work in an efficient manner, or the DevOps handbook, sorry. She's the brain behind all of this. She's the brain behind Dora, behind Space, and she's co-author of these two books. She's probably one of the most experienced person in the world to talk about developer experience, and we are so lucky because she's working in Microsoft right now, I think. She has big teams that are constantly researching, and they are not publishing Medium articles. They are not just publishing their opinion. They are doing actual research. And in this article, they analyze like 50 or 60 factors contributing to developer experience. And they reduce them to like 20 of them that are the ones that are having a more significant impact into the day-to-day of development. And they summarize these all 15 to 20 factors into three categories. They move them into these three categories. Cognitive load, feedback loops, and flow state. Building software is we can all agree that it's a complex activity. And the human brain, even if we believe that we are quite smart, is not. There are tons of articles mentioning all the limitations of our brains and the problems that you have when you're trying too many things at the same time. And if to a complex activity we add more complexity, like, I don't know, lack of documentation or bad documentation, hard to use APIs or complex services, the complexity about when you are facing to a feature is getting more and more and more complex. So if we reduce the cognitive load, you get the engineers working faster and in a more efficient way. Feedback loop is the same. Feedback loop, the definition is the time that passes since you do an action until you can see the results of this action. Since you hit the compile button until the application is running. Since you run the test until you get a success or failure. You open a pull request until you get the CI checks or you get the first comments. Since you come into production until the app is published. Or since the app is published until you start getting the first signals to know if your product is going well. And in an iterative process, as is development, we can all agree that the feedback loop, the faster, the better you are going to be working, and also the happier. And that's all of them are at the end connected. We have the flow state. And many of you have mentioned many times, don't bother me, I'm in the zone, I'm in the flow, which is like a colloquial way to mention to this highly concentrated state when you think that everything is working. You are like more. You're more innovative and you are enjoying what you're doing and you feel that you're on block and you can go faster and faster and faster and faster. Of course, this one is connected. If things are super complex, you are never going to enter into the zone. Distractions are always going to get you out of the zone. So this is what we mean by developer experience. And in summary, what we do is like we ensure the product engineers can do their job, they can focus on what they are doing and they don't have distractions and they can bring the more business, more value into the business and don't need to think into other things that are out of the scope or where they are experts, which is the actual feature they are working. We are enablers for them. Now, how? In order to make them better, you need to know what is blocking them, what are their biggest problems. There are many ways to do this. First one, data. Like I think for every problem, the first thing that you need to get to make it better is measuring and getting objective data. Objective data that you can analyze, you can get a goal, you can track it, you can experiment and say if you are making better or worse. We are not that big, so we are not checking many things. If you check GitHub, Meta, LinkedIn, they are pretty good. If you check developer experience talk from them, they are measuring absolutely everything. I mean, they own all the system where the engineers are working, so they know if they are starting to do a feature and if they are jumping to check the documentation, or if they are going to Slack or whatever communication tool that they are using to ask to some teammates how to be unblocked. They have many metrics. If we are not there, you are not there, well, you can start with a few of them and try to optimize them. For the rest, service. Not only for the rest, because when we talk about developer experience and making things better, it's not just pure data. Sometimes you need to ask people. It's not just the feelings, but things like how much you trust what you are doing, how much confident that you are with what you are building. You cannot get a number for that. You need to do a survey. Well, I think we could have a full meeting about how to do surveys. Surveys are not easy to do and easy to analyze. If you do a bad survey, the information that you are going to get is going to be terrible. But do surveys. Try to do it better and repeat. We also feel it ourselves. Even if we are not working we are not doing features for the customers, everything that we do is in the same apps, is the same repos, we follow the same processes as the other engineers. So we can have a good feeling and a good understanding about where they are being blocked. And sometimes other things that we do is we group the engineers together, we put in a room and say, okay, these are all the lists of things that you've been complaining, what are the things that you think should be prioritized the first, what are your ideas, maybe some brainstorming, whatever. With all of these inputs, we go into the planning. Since our team is taking quite long initiative, really, I mean, usually they are like 1 quarter or even 2 quarters, we plan a couple of times per year. We get all of these inputs. Then everyone in the team, we have 6 engineers, 3 with more background in iOS, the other 3 with more background in Android. And then we get all of these inputs. We get the company goals for this year. What are the OKRs of our clusters? And then we propose initiatives and different ideas to solve these problems. And after that, we evaluate them using RISE prioritization model. You can use whatever. RISE stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So we try to map what is the effort and how confident we are, and if they are going to be solved just for one application or if they are for all the applications that we maintain. And based on all of this, we plan what we are going to be doing. Something interesting that we don't have PM. I see people often, probably you are super happy, you're saying, this guy is lucky, they don't need to fight with the product manager. Well, you can see that, but on the other hand, product managers are doing an insane amount of work, and then we need to do that work ourselves. So for all of these features, what I was telling to you so far is gather requirements and maybe aligning with the stakeholders. But we also need to follow up, and we need to communicate the progress and evaluate the results, and all of these things that usually the PMs are doing, we need to do ourselves. Even if there are no PM, and as I mentioned a few times, our stakeholders are engineers, we don't communicate so much with the business units in the organization of tech. Our decisions are not just because we like certain technology or whatever. We try to have the long-term of Glovo, the long-term necessities of mobile in Glovo and the company goals in order to take our decisions. We pick more hats, or we take more roles. We have many different roles besides BM, PM, and developer. We code. Sometimes we measure. As I was mentioning, we need to provide metrics to track some of the goals. Our main service is the CI/CD. So half of our days is unbroken pipeline. So we are kind of plumbers. Many others. Last one is intentionally the last one, gatekeeper. We don't like to be the police role. We don't like to have the police role, but sometimes we need to take it. Sometimes probably we are in a position that we can challenge more. Maybe you don't have the pressure of the PM in your team, and you can see someone that is trying to introduce something that you think the trade-offs have not been properly evaluated. So sometimes we can do some pushback. Or architects, because sometimes we need to think into the high architecture to all of these things to fit together. In general, it's a supporting role. So we are here to help the product engineers, to support them, whatever they need, so they know they can come to us and try to unblock some of their problems. Our day-to-day can be, or the summary of the things that we do can be categorized in these four categories, these four points. First, we are creating guidelines and standards. This is connected with cognitive load. So for the basic things that that the product engineers are doing in their day-to-day, if they already have a guideline or a standard about how to do it, they don't need to think. Of course, they need to think for applying or for doing it, but they don't need to do the extra thinking. How should I apply this? What is the best way for doing this? Just follow the standards, just follow these guidelines that we all agree together, and we think is the best way to do it. So with that, you reduce that cognitive complexity. Sometimes we need to implement something, or we need to provide the tooling. If there is a third-party service that is already doing something, is for a fair price, we are going to integrate it. And sometimes this means that we are going to do the basic integration, we are going to deal with the licenses, maybe we deal with procurement, and create accounts for everyone. Sometimes we need to actually code and provide the solution that is going to do whatever we want to solve. I want to stress again, create metrics and dashboard. Something I learned in the last years, if you don't have a metric, you are not able to move something. You can say, it's one of the examples that I have later, let's modularize. We all can agree that we should have a modular application. If you don't have something that is tracking it and you just trust everyone will do it, most likely you are not going to advance. You need to have a metric that you can track and you can have goals about that and maybe OKRs or whatever. And last but not least, we also train engineers. I mean, for many of the guidelines, new tooling, new services, we need to try and we do workshops and try to communicate much with the engineers to share the knowledge. And let's jump into some examples. These are real initiatives that we've been doing during the last year. I think most of them are 2023. I point there, I mark like these four categories that I was mentioning. I mark there what they contribute. So for example, if we talking about metrics, we want to know how the builds are going locally and in CI. So in that case, we were just providing metrics, creating maybe implementing a few scripts or whatever to get these metrics. But in this case, we are only providing the metrics. There are examples like the modularization, where in one hand we provide the standards, in other the metrics, and also the tooling. I'm going to go into detail in most of these ones. CI/CD, I was mentioning that this is probably the biggest thing that the biggest service that we provide to the engineers. We have these 70 engineers that are constantly doing pull requests, and we implement it, we maintain, and we improve it. One of the things that we should do is ensuring reliability and making it faster. Making it faster is directly connected with feedback loop. The shorter is the CI, the better will be the feedback loop. Some of the challenges that we face with that. We have a fully automated release process. So every step in our mobile release process is automated, from the branch creations to deploying in the stores, state rollouts. Everything is fully automated. We used to be in Jenkins. We have tons of lines in Jenkins, and it was pretty hard to contribute. I think I never met anyone that really loves Jenkins. It's quite complex. I mean, I was happy with it, but it was quite complex, hard to contribute, to maintain it up to date. Probably that was the hardest thing. Other challenges in general in CI/CD, you have ephemeral agents. So if you want to make the builds faster, you cannot leverage previous runs. Usually when you are building locally, you have half of the things already built. So you don't, in ephemeral agent, you don't have it. And this produces a slow feedback loop. But also because you are trying to do many things. Usually in the CI part, in the PRs, you are trying to check many different things. So maybe your time might get super long. And also stability issues. When you have many engineers contributing in the same repo, you might start having stability in your main branch. Some of the solutions. One was to migrate to GitHub Actions. We complete this migration at the end of the last year. We are super happy with that. We also, because it enabled, I mean, that could be a full presentation about this. It enabled us to do many things that with Jenkins were more complex, and to leverage and to share more. If things are going slow, you should be parallelizing them. If you are problem with ephemeral agents, you should introduce remote cache. For stability things in the main branches, merge queues. For us, this was a great solution. We tried, I don't remember the tool, Mergify, I think it's called, yeah, Mergify. We tried to use that tool like a year ago. It was terrible. We hate it. Everyone hates merge queues until this year we introduced the one from GitHub that is fairly good. Again, we have some KPIs and dashboards. So this is a screenshot. I took it yesterday. Now, for the last week, we have full stability, and our average time in PRs is less than 9 minutes. Our P90 is 12, but I think we are happy having the average under 10. Regarding all the migration, I think we were checking numbers today because I have another teammate that is going to do a presentation of the GitHub one. When we migrate to GitHub Actions from Jenkins, we managed to have the average in 15 or 16. That was just the migration. Then we've been for 3 months doing some optimizations, and we went into 9 for both customer and iOS. Also, of course, I didn't mention, but invest in better machines. So if you want to, sometimes the problem to make things faster, you don't need to think, you just need to throw hardware to the problem. Just go to the cloud and get a bigger machine with more memory, more cores, more CPU, and sometimes that is going to be the solution. Another example that we did during the last year, observability. I think probably this is the word of the year. I think I see more and more talks everyone about observability, most of them about the high cost. And everyone noticed during the last year that having telemetry in the applications is quite expensive. We had the same problem. We were using a custom in-house solution because the provider that for observability that we were using in Glovo, they didn't have any mobile SDK, so we built one internally. We tried to use it. It's Datadog. We were using custom metrics. I think they are something that is quite expensive. We need to invest a lot of time into lowering the cost without compromising too much what we were observing, but it was hard, so we decided we need to change something. Also, there was no agreements. Again, with the agreements, we like to have a lot of consistency, not in observability, in everything between the applications, between the customer, courier, Android, iOS. One of the reasons, and I like it in this point very much, is because if suddenly you see in your metric that something is going funny, if you know that they are consistent between iOS and Android, and if it's going down in both of them, you probably can blame Backend. if it's only in one, it's probably something that you need to look into that application. So if you have consistency, particularly in observability and of course in all the features, you are going to get a lot of advantage there. And also, I mean, we were instrumenting a lot of things, and some teams didn't even know that they were there and they could use it. So what did we do to improve all of this? We did a POC with a couple of different toolings. We decided to stay in Datadog, but using their specific, the RAM, the real user monitoring, which is their specific SDK or a specific way for mobile. Which for us, now the cost is amazing because it works by sessions and you can sample them, and with that you can get enough observability with a fair amount of cost. We also introduce observability standards. We create, and when I talk about creating standards, it's not something that we impose to the product teams. We leverage the work, we do all the initial writing or whatever, but we get aligned with the product engineers. You cannot go and say, I'm platform, this is what you should be doing now, this is the new standard. That's not going to work. You need to convince people, you need to get their buy-in. So every time that I talk about the standards means thinking about how things should be done, and going to the teams, get alignment with them, get their buy-in, and publish them and make them official. We also create opinionated dashboards. So again, this is coming again to the cognitive load part. You create a new feature, you have a new endpoint or whatever new screen that you are doing, and then your team asks you, okay, let's observe, let's have some telemetry, let's have some dashboards, some monitors to observe this metric. Oh, what should I be doing? And then start thinking, what is the best way to represent this? Which widgets should I be using? Which kind of monitor can I use? Should I use a threshold, an anomaly, blah, blah, blah. We give opinionated data, so we say, hey, this is how you should be observing the metric. This is the very basic. Of course, you're not forced to do that, but if you don't want to think more, just pick this one and move ahead. and ensure consistency. And in this one, we also did workshops. So I think this is one example that we did absolutely the whole 4 main activities. This is just an example of our opinionated dashboard. So we told the teams, hey, if you want to observe networking and JSON errors, this is what you should be using. So we give these templates with those instructions and things like that. Say, hey, copy this into your team dashboard, filter by whatever are your URLs, and that's pretty much all that you need to do. And click here to create a monitor from this widget. That's all. And they don't need to invest more than 10 minutes doing this, and they have observability for the new feature. Modularization. When you have many engineers working in the same app, and it's not many engineers, it's like the lines of code are keep increasing. Usually you are going to face the time is increasing. Also, we have some agreement, as I was mentioning before. Everyone knew that we should be doing modularization. This is not something new. Modularizing, especially for Android apps, I think in iOS it's also the thing, but probably it's not from so long. Everyone agrees that modularization is the way to go. But we didn't have any clear agreements internally about how this should be done. And when you create a model, who should be on it? Also, it was not prioritized. What did we do? Again, some standards. We created standards. We give ideas about how models should be. We clearly established that every module should be owned by a team. We don't care what is inside the modules, but each module must be owned by a team. All the code has to be owned by a specific team. To tackle the building time increase, we enforce a flat architecture. So one problem that we have, especially in Android, that we start doing modularization without no guidelines, is that we start creating modules, but every module could depend on anyone, so we end up having a really long list of dependencies. And it happened that you have your whole bright machine with 16 cores using just one, because the whole application was waiting for this one module to be compiled, and when this was finished, then another one, and then another one. If you enforce a flat architecture, then you can have all of them built in parallel, fully parallelized. This could be a full talk. Actually, I have a teammate that has done a full talk just about modularization. I'm not going to get into more detail, but this is one of the things that we provide to the engineers as part of the standards. We tell, hey, this is how the app should look like. Your module should have an exposed module, which is the one that others are going to consume, and they should be small, so they are not blocking anyone. The problem with this kind of things is that it's cool that you have standards and you have agreements, and it's okay that everyone agrees on, but it's quite easy to break it and be unnoticed. So in this case, we also introduced some plugins and some scripts into our build process to verify that you are fulfilling these standards and you are not doing something breaking it that can get the tree down again. And we provide metrics, and once we start providing metrics, then the team has a new goal, and then we can say, hey, for engineer, the new goal is that we move, for example, the bottom left, modularize as per standards. How many modules are following the standards? So we start in 10%, and we have our goal to be 80, 90, 100. Top right, code inside the monolith. One of the goals of modularization is removing code from the monolith, from the app monolith, and moving it to the modules. So here you have the graphs about how I think the purple is of course inside the monolith. So it ends up being like less than 10% of the code. So we provide this metric, this dashboard, so anyone can follow that and can plan ahead of this. Dependency. This is probably quite simple. It doesn't involve, probably it's more about alignment. The mobile application, even if we are modularized and we are super happy, every module is from a single person, then when you send this to production, it's just a single APK. It's the same APK for everyone. If your module crashes, it crashes for everyone. And probably, I mean, it's not, I don't think this is global. It happened in every company I've been working, every project I work. We all add dependencies quite loosely. There is, oh, yeah, I'm going to solve this, I'm going to add this dependency, probably it's going to do the job, and there's no problem. And in our experience, dependencies are causing incidents. Probably, if I remember, some of the biggest outages that we had in Glovo were due to third-party dependencies. It was not our code, it was a third-party dependency that we introduced for something. And the problem when that happens is that you cannot solve it. You can remove the dependency, but that's hard. If the problem is in your code, you can probably easily prioritize and solve it because it's a priority for you. If it's a third party, they say, some answer that we received this answer this very week. I promise. We reported back to a company 2 weeks ago. It's our top crash now in Android. And we say, hey, we have this crash. This is clearly your fault. They don't even have public. The code is not even open source, so we kind of decompile the code to trying to point it. We were pretty clear that it was a problem in their side. They answer 2 weeks later, say, sorry, the tech lead was not here, so we couldn't look into your crash. I promise this was a real answer. I can show you the email. Like, okay, if the failing code is used, you're going to prioritize that. No matter who is on vacation, you're going to find someone to fix it. But if it's a third party, it's harder. So what did we do? What did we do for this? We introduced a checklist. So we introduced a new agreement, and the agreement is anytime a team, an engineer want to introduce a new dependency into the project, they need to fill a checklist. And this checklist is asking questions about what is going to be the impact, what happens if this fails, how is impacting the users, who is going to own it, because sometimes they just go into a big list, a big package, and no, this dependencies, platforms will own it. No. You are using it. It's a dependency just for your feature. It's not a cross dependency. You are using it, you own it, you solve it. With that, in that sense, you have clear understanding of the dependencies and understanding the risks. And these are examples of the actual questions that are there. Some of them are about the motivations. Why are you adding that? What is the quality? It's open source. If in the example that I was giving now, if you introduce a dependency that is open source, in the worst case, we can fork the repo and we try to work in a solution ourselves. If it's private code, you can't. Okay, what else? Also, the user impact, especially now, this is harder because the stores, both Apple Store and Play Store, are introducing more and more regulations and more checks to watch for the safety of the users. If you introduce a new dependency that is asking for a new permission, then you probably are going to get blocked in your next release. Or a dependency that is sending user data to a third party, probably you are going to violate all the guidelines. Even GDPR, not just the store. Even you are going to violate GDPR. So you need to know these things. Also, the impact. What is the impact in network, in battery? It does happen something when you start the application. Is the application going to start to be slower every time because we have this application? These kind of questions that many times you are not asking yourself when you are adding a dependency. So this is a mandatory process, and everyone reviews afterwards and say, okay, this is fine, or at least, again, this is the kind of the policy. Being the police, it's not just platform to review. We put this to review everyone, and this is good because you have public conversations about the dependency. It's not just something that probably happened in a team. Everyone in the organization, everyone in the mobile community can give their opinion and have a discussion about this. Performance metrics. This is also one where we are also only adding the metrics. We are Glovo is part of a bigger company. It's called Delivery Hero, and they have their own standards for mobile performance. We also used to have ones, but now we are adopting theirs. So these performance metrics are composed by many different things, like time to interactive, crashes, application side, everything that impacts into the user. And in this case, we are not creating the standard. The standard is there, it's coming, but we are making a better way to measure this. Because one of the problems was that these metrics were not accessible for everyone because they were in many different places. For one, you need to go to Apple Store to Apple Connect to get the size of the application. You need to go to Play Store to get the cold start. You need to go to Crashlytics to get the crashes. You need to go to our observability to get the TTI. So everything was dispersed. Everyone was hard for again to have a single metric, a single place to track. So we got all of these different sources. We put them together. We create some jobs that are querying to different APIs, and then we put them together. We bulk them into our internal observability, into our Datadog tool, and we create a dashboard with that, and also resolving consistencies. Again, there are many inconsistencies between Android, iOS. If you have a central team trying to do these things, you are going to resolve this inconsistency easier. And this is an example. This is the dashboard that we are providing. So we have all the information in a single place. You don't need to go to multiple ones, and you can see just your total score. And then you can say, okay, we are fine, we are not. What is our target? Is our target 70, 80, 100? What is the target? You have everything here together. And that's all. I want to mention, I forgot when I was talking now about inconsistencies, that I started in Glovo as product engineer. I was for 3 years working in the customer application, and there was no platform team. So I was doing these things. And it happened in any company that doesn't have a mobile platform team or a platform team. The product engineers need to spend time doing these things, because most of these things, I mean, some you can do it only if you have a team, but there are many other things that are the basics that you need to do anyway. So if there is no team doing these things, your product engineers are going to waste time doing that. And it was my case. I was doing all of these things. That's why at some point I talked to the CTO and say, we need a mobile platform team. I cannot do this. We cannot do this just with a couple of people because they like it or whatever. We need to work on this consistently. So that's why I think it's important having mobile platform teams. And probably time for questions. Jose?
Hi, Dominic. No, I mean, I have a doubt because I am not so good with mobile development. Yes, I mean, I haven't worked with that. So my question is, being part of a platform team that you need to be support in a work when you have two different applications there are leads by two companies that every year are giving you new regulation and new stuff. Which one is that, and how do you manage to be up to date with this, to all the regulations and all the conditions that the company standards, the Play Stores and the Apple Store? And also, in an extra question, what was the more interesting things about the Google I/O from your point of view?
So the first question, how to get up to date with regulation in the stores? That's hard. I mean, sometimes they send you an email, sometimes not. I think you need to constantly search for them. Many times it happens that we are going about to publish, and then they say, no, you didn't fill this form. I say, wait, why there is not a big alert? And it's depending on what it is, if there are smaller or bigger alerts, or you think that you completed, but then they change something, and you need to, I mean, we are subscribed and we try to read every email that they send about updates, and sometimes you check into their websites to see what is coming. Because they don't present all of these things in the Google I/O. They suddenly, in the middle of September, are going to say, okay, the new regulation in 3 months is going to be this. So yeah, you need to keep checking on them. And your second question was?
The big picture that was presented yesterday.
Google doing the Googling. There was another question around here?
Yeah, I was just curious about you mentioned 70 engineers. That 70 engineers, 20 teams?
Yes.
So how many per team?
It depends. So there are, I mean, usually every team in Glovo is kind of the multidisciplinary squad model. Like you have backend, mobile, and web, and an engineering manager, a PM, sometimes even some data analytics. So it depends. There are teams that have only 101 iOS. There are other teams that have 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, most of them I would say that they have 2 engineers. 200 and 2 iOS.
So when you say 70, that's between iOS and...
Exactly, 17 total. So they are like roughly 35 and 35, or 30. They're not exactly given, but more or less.
And then your platform team, your colleagues, they help you.
We are 6.
Yeah.
We are 3 Android, 3 iOS, and so we support to this other 70 or this other 65 or whatever. And it's just us and the EM.
You seem to have achieved a lot in terms of metrics and analytics.
Sorry?
You seem to have achieved a lot.
Thank you. If you don't have a PM in the team, then you can focus on these things. I mean, I think we are lucky that we can focus in all of these things, and we can, I mean, we are getting all of the inputs, and we know what is our priorities, and we try to focus in these things. So I think we managed to create focus time to work on these things and not be much interrupted by other things.
You you mentioned that it's not a platform who says you have to do that. No? Normally, when you have to do something like mobilization, there are agreements and so. So, considering 70 teams, 20 teams, and people, you talk about units or something like this.
Yeah, clusters are a group of teams.
Yeah,
Yes.
clusters. How you manage, and also multidisciplinary teams, how you manage the technical alignment? When you have the people involved, align it, and there was fights and alignment, how you manage that?
So that's probably one of the hardest things. What we usually, every time that we want to introduce something new, we are not concerned about how hard it's going to be technically. We are concerned about the alignment phase. We say, okay, we need to align all of these teams, all of these applications, all of this, and we try to over communicate also. I mean, also you have Slack and you have thousands of different channels, and not everyone is in every channel, and you think that posting in just one channel everyone is going to read, and it doesn't happen. So it's hard, but we try to. You have, I mean, the guild or committee format where you can find all the engineers of a central the same platform, like all 100 engineers or iOS engineers. So we try to go there, share these things, talk with them there. Also over communicating every time something is about to change. We try to go to all the channels and feedback about this, etc. We also have this is cross global. We have a request for comments process. So anytime something big want to change, we write this a structured document. We send for review. We get approvers. There's a formal process for giving feedback.
If you have to say a percentage of what things come from bottom to top, bottom to bottom, you mean things that go top down or things that you do that come from the other developers and so, or more?
I don't know. It will be 50-50 because at the end, we are not taking just the ideas out of the wild. We are watching what they are complaining. So probably could be 50-50. Sometimes it happens. I imagine most of you work in platform teams. Sometimes you get requests that are, I don't know, buy this service to do this solution. I say, wrong. You should come to me and say, I want a solution for this. So this happens sometimes that they say, this is my problem. No, people say, I want this service, and you say, okay, what do you need this service for? Maybe there is a better alternative. So sometimes we try to solve their problem, not in the way that they are asking for, right? I don't know if I explain me. On that. I think it will be 50-50, I would say.
One question, you mostly talked about all the tools you offer to all the mobile things you have to measure the speed, metrics, and so on. But do you also contribute to the project actively, like creating core modules?
So some of these tools we need to build them as modules there. So for example, observability. For observability, it's true that we are using separate. I mean, an SDK from Datadog. The SDK is doing most of the instrumentation, but there are many things, many parts of the standards that we believe that they are the way that should be observed, that we are the ones implementing. I mean, even just the initial integration is not just usually not a couple of lines. You need to do more things. So this initial integration, we do it. And also sometimes we need to do some wrappers or some extra decoration things around. So we are contributing to the projects doing these things.
And are you also responsible for defining the architecture of the application, or is this something that is?
Not all. That is kind of agree between the rest of engineers, other senior engineers in the company. But for example, I would say modularization is part of the architecture. So this is something that we were imposing. What happened inside your module, if you are using MVVM or other kind of architectures, for now we are not getting into that. But mostly we've been focusing more in, I would say, the infra side, not so much into the more Android side of the equation.
You mentioned metrics, and a lot of metrics have a very qualitative character.
Sorry?
A lot of metrics have a qualitative character to it. Things that you can hardly measure.
Yes.
There's a bit of improvement here, or you could lead to some performance improvements for other teams. But I guess those things are hard to measure or to, how do you do that?
For things that are hard to measure with objective metrics. So for that, we usually rely into service. And we try to, when we do this, for example, now we are working to improve UA testing. For that, this is one of the examples, because you can know how many tests fail, you can get that metric, how fast the tests are, but how much the engineers trust into the release process, how much time they invest into doing manual testing, this kind of thing, you cannot measure them. So for this one, we do a survey, we try to think the way to ask these questions, and usually you have the, I don't remember what is the, sorry, there is a name of the kind of question that you do when you want to measure things, like it's Likert scale. We try to use the Likert scale, so 1 to 5. So, for example, how much you trust into the testing solution that you have now. How much do you know? Then you introduce the Likert scale, which is 1 to 5, from 0 nothing to 10. I put my hands there, and with that you can transform that into averages and into numbers. So you know, okay, their trust now is 4. If we move to 8, that will be a success. Also using the NPS score. This kind of things, you can introduce this into numbers, so you get the subjective metrics into something that you can track and you can improve.
How often do you send out those surveys?
Not much, because I think no one likes surveys. So I think you have the survey burnout, or whatever you want to call it. People doesn't like to answer surveys, so we try to limit this a lot. One thing that I learned, I really love it from, I think it's LinkedIn. They have a team specialized in surveys. There's a single team that they are tracking all the surveys for every platform and every teams in the organization. And they are also, I think they send surveys a couple of times per year or 3 times. I mean, they are really specific about when to send surveys. And since they have so many metrics, as I was mentioning at the beginning, they know which services did you use. So every question in the survey is unique. I mean, the questions are not unique, but what you receive is unique, because they are asking only for the things that you have used. So you don't have a lot of different questions for things that you don't use. So we don't like to send much. I mean, it's something that we know that we need to rely on, but we probably do 4 per year, 6 per year. I wouldn't say more. For example, in this UA testing that I was mentioning, our plan was we sent a survey at the very beginning, just to know what is the status and what we should be improving. And we are going to use this data also to measure how well we did it. So we are going to send another survey at the end of the year asking for that. Sometimes the survey is like the biggest pain point that I was mentioning. So we just send this a couple of times per year. Say, what are the 3 top things that you would like us to solve? There was a question over here. Someone else?
Yes, so on all those graphs that you showed and so on, I'm wondering how actively are each team checking them, and also if you have some sort of alert that can tell you, hey, something is wrong and everybody is aware. Or it's just like you present information, but then how you make sure that the people is actually using it.
Good. It depends. So there are some of these dashboards that are to be consumed by the product engineers and others by us. So for example, the one about CI/CD, I think first time I do every morning is checking that. Some of these dashboards, I mean, once you have the metrics in the observability system, probably whatever you choose, you can create alerts and monitors. So for some of them are monitors. As part of the standards, for example, about this dashboard about the networking errors, we are asking to the teams, hey, besides having this nice dashboard, you should also create an alert for this specific one. So as part of the standard, we were also telling them, hey, you should create a monitor for this. Because yes, that was the problem that we were having. We were sending metrics and no one is looking into that. So yeah, definitely. And also, this is just your responsibility, right? As product engineer, you are owning these features. You want to know it's okay. We are giving you the tooling. It's up to you if you don't create monitors or don't check the dashboard. I mean, at the end, it's your feature, the one that is going to be broken, and you are the one that is going to need to wake at 4 a.m. to fix it or to explain why it's broken and how it happened and this kind of thing. So we cannot enforce everyone to do everything. We try to make it easier, but there are things that they are not our scope. So is there a scope to make sure that they are doing these things? We cannot police in that way.